Hello, everyone. I'm the Sasaki from the JPSAT Coordination Center. It's about 20 minutes, but I'm going to talk about this title. Usually, I'm just working on the blogs of my feelings, but anyway, today I'd like to focus on the actual and responsibility at the JSAT. So this is the title is why ransomware attack actors should be identified, and then just like here on the good illustrations here. But today I'd like to just talk about a lot of the issues and problems actually the field of ransomware attacks, and I'd like to focus on the important points to deal with this. And first of all, page 1 and 2, these are about we call it attribution, and so there are a lot of arguments and discussion about how we can define this as attribution. But anyway, this is just briefly introducing some of the approaches for attribution. So would you please make reference later the session. When I get down to that page 3, this is about the actor. It's called the ransomware gang, but what kind of group are the ransomware gang? And when we're looking at dealing with it, actually ransomware gang or the different actors. So this is what this page is saying. There are 3 different groups there, and affiliated scheme or for the Russia or some of the specific area around, and the group is called and the ransomware gang. But so for example, the other one that's those who are not, and the part of that affiliated group, but some of the independents and the groups that also are there. So also a single attack group and also the APT group. For those groups who are the ones engaged in that kind of APT, these are the other group. So just like this, where that's not only for the rock bits or that kind of not only for that the major. Although they use some major ransomware, but it's not that about we cannot say that they are all the affiliated scheme member. On the other hand, when it comes to that ransom and how to deal with the incidents, and they put emphasis on the recovery. So that's why sometimes that's working on identifications of actors, or that the infiltration routing or that kind of analysis and put on the back burner. So also, for those who are, and all the vendors who are and working on the first line and the defense of it, they don't have, some of them don't have an experience for identifying that specific actor. That's why this is actually to identification of actor will put on the back burner. Okay, then first of all, let me explain some of them. Number 1 is the running for the leaks. It will be studied an activity from October 2021, and also, when they're working on it, whether it's a loss or that individual groups, it was not so much clear, and how we can classify this, the rubbing foot leaks. So, but the latter days that now, so the ransomware and they use the different. We find that the other and the incidents using the different tool. So that's why we think that these 2 groups are rebranded with each other. So, for example, in the Europe and the Africa and in China, they have targeted a lot of the enterprises in a lot of countries, and so on and so forth. Using that they use the builder, and that to come up with that kind of variance, and then also for that uniqueness of is that the extension of after the encryption is using the domain name or the other and the name of the company who are targeted by this group. We use it for the extension. So, and this group is that basically that they use using that, for example, that take advantage of they're likely to exploit vulnerabilities in sort of VPN products or previously in the leaked credentials in the presentation. So there's a lot of that's an information is deposited here. So that anyway and there were multiple samples with that some. The target organization, the reason were inferred from that the file extension after encryption, so which is that abbreviated name of the target organization, so we can classify them. So this is about the Samus builder, and use it for the Samus and the different variants for but use it for that's another Samus builder, and a lot of this in the right hand side, this and the scoop ransom. So this is also quite similar. I'm going to explain the details later. So next to some security vendors working on identifications try to identify with that and the username and the negotiation method, but some of this too basically this is the variance for the 11-foot. So this is only for the information. So this is about the identification through the attack infrastructure. And the spook ransom is used for the part of that the infrastructure and overlapped. That's why we think that the same actor was working on it. Page 9 is also for this your reference. When don't you look at this, but when it comes to this case 1, 2, 3, these are that the JP side, the one that we have the JP side that we take care of, and then also for all the cases they seem like that, and we think that they are all that the similar ransom actors and engage them. This is the case 2. This is about the full those ransom actors using full loader. So that freeloader was identified in the instance responsive to the targeted ransomware attack. So it was basically and previously used for APT. So in 2022, this is also announced by the JSAC and from the 2015 that and the user mainly targeted cyber attacks since around 2015. The samples contain a distinctive string like this. And after and the 2021, there's a look for Atom, Silo, the Look, Night Sky, and Pandora. These are the ransomware supposedly be that performed by the same attack group, which the Microsoft calls the Dev 0401. The Microsoft, the Secure Works, and another makes that the same arguments. And according to Microsoft, that the Secure Works also and classify like similarly. And according to Microsoft, and in 2022, after the April 2022, the Lockbit 2.0 has been used as ransomware payloads, and the Microsoft says so. Anyways, for all this group is now that there's no, don't use that. Use the compromising by the VPN other day and use it the exploit of a proxy shell, the Confluence, or VMware Horizon, and that's all this. We did not discover anything that take advantage of the compromising VPN. So this is that the lock and the Atom, Silo, and the Look are similar to the book whose source code leaked in September 2021, and the Night Sky is similar to the Look, and the packet is also identical. Pandora and the Look contain the same code, partially, and the packet is the same as that Night Skies. And also the other TTP between the two ransom cases are also similar. So looking from this perspective, we think that they are engaged with the same actor. So I explained the 2 cases, but let me go into more details. I'd like to explain the other 2 additional cases. These cases is that also we have ourselves to take care of, but even before we get engaged at the past, one vendor have investigated has some difficulty in investigation. First one is that this is 2022, March 2022, that you can suppose about the Ukraine conflict, and now that's the tension and the geopolitical and the mounting, but also in the specific region, or that can be just identified or the link to that, and also the motivation of that about this, and for that's the specific region or the that the motivation for the attacks and the reasons for being targeted international affairs and supply chain relationship, and in reality. The attacks were conducted by the actors completely unrelated to any particular region or supply chain, using the known ransomware. But they had been active since before that the international situation changed. In some cases, the ransomware types were even misidentified, linking it to an unrelated attack group in this circumstance. And the next case is that this is about that. The way identifying the communications due to a certain type of malware infection and contacted the organization, and it turned out that it was due to the malware left and removed at the end of the ransomware attack over a year ago. The forensic vendor at the time had failed to identify the attack group, that the vulnerable web server, which was that the initial access route used by the attack group at the time was not investigated, and preventive measures were not properly implemented. Actually, it was just coming out from that and the vulnerable web server, but they have left and touched it. Then this is to get down to today's main topic. Why should ransomware attack actors to be identified? There are 3 reasons. Number 1, to ensure that the initial response is appropriate, prompt, and low cost. Identify the cause of the initial access, for example. And also at the same time, you need to just reduce the unnecessary network shutdowns and the forensics and the initial response by narrowing down the possible attack methods used. This is the first reason. And the reason number 2 is to ensure that the APT actors conducting the ransomware attacks are not missed. So this is that we have to think about it so that we don't have to miss it. And the reason number 3 is that to contain the ransomware threats and select effective countermeasures for each actor. Each actor has a different background, so that we have to have the effective countermeasures for each of these specific different each actor. This is the reason number 3.
The first objective, by identifying and narrowing down the ransomware type and actor, we can infer the TTP is used. And it can also narrowing down the initial access and lateral movement routes to determine the priorities of investigation. To be more specific, we should reduce unnecessary network and system shutdowns as much as possible, but that is just an ideal world. So in reality, all the staffs are asked to investigate all systems and whether any information has leaked at the request by clients. I think you've experienced this before. So, and also, in 3 days or 5 days, you are required to report or notify due to the personal information protection law. And because of that, the resources of your team is often used up to do this kind of response. And you cannot use your resource to identify the source of the actors. That is the challenge we are facing. And again, going back to the objective number 1, this is closely related to refusing the paying ransom. Counter-ransom initiative meeting that is led by the U.S., the people are showing the direction to restrict ransom payments in various countries. And depending upon the actors, ransom payment can be considered economic sanction violation in some countries. Having said that, just because of that, we cannot tell the victim parties do not pay ransom and does not provide a reasonable basis for decision making, as you can see here. But if they can perform an efficient initial response, that would minimize additional damage as much as possible, like longer the system stoppage and bigger recovery costs, etc., etc. And then I think with that, you can just change the comparison of the total amount of the burden you have. And the second objective is to trace and counter APT actors. In the cases of a Lockbit 2.0 infection, there are many APT attacks. And we are sometimes probably missing, overlook this. Here's one example. APT43 is considered to be conducting attack campaigns targeting crypto assets for the purpose of self-funding its activities. That is pointed out. According to our investigation and Daryl, including Stonefly and other subgroups, they use Maui ransomware and as well as Lockbit 2.0 and other types of malware. So it is just a possibility, but this is also considered to be used for self-financing of their activities. And the objective number 3, take appropriate actions for each attack cases. First one is that countermeasures against affiliate scheme actors. So far, in some cases, affiliate schemes disappeared just due to the internal conflicts, and in other cases, the activities were just seized by the arrest of those involved. So that is possible. And not all affiliates are quite skillful compared to APT actors, so they can be investigated and arrested due to OPSEC mistakes they make. And just because of the characteristics of the scheme, so if the return they get from these schemes is not economically good for them, they will be removed from the scope of the attack. So this means if all the parties involved in a certain region of or industry refuse to pay ransom, the attackers, may not target them anymore. And next, as I said earlier, that when the ransom actor is a single attack group, in this case, as I said earlier, they are repeating the fake rebranding. We cannot tell what is the reason for that, but as one hypothesis, they may not like attribution for some reason. Based upon this hypothesis, so even if we cannot arrest such attackers, maybe just exposing attack methods through alerts and analysis reports may deter attackers' activities to some degree, like APT attacks. And the scale of their activities is relatively small compared to affiliate schemes, reducing the success rate and efficiency of the attacks to some degree can be critical to their activities, so we can just minimize their activities. And next case, that in case of APT actors or actors involved in APT in the past. So far, many APT actors have ceased or changed their activities due to public attribution, or have changed their activities and techniques as a result of alerts and analytical reports in the past. So similar countermeasures and deterrence may be effective. And this is ransomware attacks are only a side business for them, so they may temporarily or permanently withdraw from ransomware attacks if they experience some failures continuously. So, as I have talked about so far, I'd like to just summarize here why ransomware attack groups should be identified. First, we need to ensure that initial response is appropriate, prompt, and at low cost. The investigation costs and costs arising from a system stoppage for a long time. We should ensure that appropriate initial response. And also, we are very sure that APT actors are just mixed here in these cases. So in order not to overlook them, those cases, that we have to identify the ransomware attack group first. And thirdly, in order to contain the ransomware threat, we need to select an optimal and effective countermeasure appropriate for each actor, because three of them I quoted have a different background and environment. So that's why the identification is very critical. So with that, that the victims will be less inclined to pay ransom if their burden to address the ransomware attack incident response can be reduced. And at the same time, if we can take appropriate countermeasures for each type of actors, then we can reduce the overall number of ransom actors involved as a possibility. I put a question. This is my insurance. So this is a hypothesis. So the examples I quoted today is just a part of the actual cases, but we definitely need to tackle on these cases in order to reduce those cases happening in the future. Seriously. Thank you very much. I'd like to move on to the question and answer session. Thank you very much. It was quite informative for us based upon the actual case. It was, that a quite, convincing story. But in real world, with this ransomware attack, in many cases that we are asked to focus on the recovery, and it is rather difficult to convince them, that we should work on identifying a ransomware actor first. So how do you think we can fill that gap in understanding? Yes, actually, I wanted to touch upon this in my presentation, but simply put, that first responder vendors do not have enough resources to do that, for the identification. But so in that case, please call us. That is the only thing I can tell you. JP CERT is kind of considered as a party to perform a double check, for example, for the second opinion. But actually, I think we can take your burden as well. We can work with you to tackle such ransomware cases. So, and also there are some other public official, groups, organizations who can help you. But I do not know about others, but at least we can help you. Thank you. Any other questions?
Okay, please. Thank you very much for your presentation. So in any case you discovered a wiper and pretending to be that the ransomware? Yes. So there's in the past 3 years, yes, and it's just actually the wiper, and disguising that's the ransomware that we have discovered. And before that, even before that, we have the increasing about that kind of ransomware. We also discovered and that the wipers, but now. And after this ransomware getting all the active, we did not discover so many cases. And this is only within the scope that we have directly get engaged in. So actually, it's not the ransomware. Simply look ransomware, but not the major objective is not only for that's the ransom money, but also some of the ransomware we use it for some with different objectives like evading or deleting the traces or anything that. So anyway, it might be likely that some of the wiper and disguising and for that the ransomware are there. But we'll keep working together with you about this to discover that. Okay, thank you very much. Any other question?
Yes, please. Thank you very much for your quite informative presentation. In ransomware, when the builder is leaked, the actor identification, I think, would get more difficult. Do you have any opinion on that? Yes, I agree with you. So in case of Robinhood leaks, they are not just using that builder, that they are doing mimicking double threats on SNS. So that we could trace such, we could seize those traces rather than ransomware, so we could identify. And using that, that source code with that builder, in many cases they use such method. So in such cases, for those groups, it would be very difficult to perform the analysis or investigation. Ideal ones I talked about this time. But I think that would be some traces in a wide area infrastructure. So maybe one point is to look into investigate infrastructure. But in case of ransomware, SSVPN, there's no connection. That sort of connection source and access source information is quite scarce in many cases. So in that case, very, very difficult to capture the traces or the evidences. But that to support victims and notify the companies that the access log is important. In some cases that logs will go on in 1 or 2 days, but the ransomware will not last for many days. So just for a few days, that we can still expect to capture the evidence of ransomware. So Robinhood one, we did not have that for SSVPN, but for that particular console, we could identify the C2 because on the console we could have some traces, for a few days. But in some cases that after discovery, SSVPN OS recovery, OS version was old. They identified it, so they updated it. And everything's gone. So we shouldn't perform that, and that sort of caveat should be shared widely. So even for the cases, it's difficult to identify the actors, but with those hints, still we can do something to work on. Thank you.
Any other question? All right. Okay, thank you very much. That's the end of the sessions. Thank you very much. Thank you.